Professor Melly Mel, the Hood Postman. We're back in here. And who we with here today?
Lil Evil again.
Lil Evil.
Part two, man. Part two.
Part two. Definitely part two. Yeah, definitely part two. Let's pick back up right where we left off on the 3 P's, where it's about Pasadena, Pomona, and Pacoima. Please explain that circumstance to us.
What a lot of people didn't realize is back then, the Valley is a part of Los Angeles. We were just talking about that, how the Valley is a part of Los Angeles. Pasadena was San Gabriel Valley. Pomona, that's San Gabriel Valley. Pacoima was San Fernando Valley. And you can run into these neighborhoods via the 210 freeway. Right. You get on the 210, you go. You're going to run into all 3 of these neighborhoods. So what we called ourselves back then was 3 P's on the 210. Meaning that you're going to either hit Pacoima, Pasadena, or Pomona. We would call 3 P's on the 210. And we kind of developed together as gangs because we weren't like the one of the 70s orientations of the gangs that came up in LA. You know, Blood and Crippin', they had already had like almost a decade ahead of us of gang experience as far as Blood and Crippin' went. But like I was telling him, we had our own gangs in the Valley. You know, we had PPA boys, we had East Side Hustlers, we had West Side Godfathers and Clovers and all of these different gangs. And then when we got to prison, all of those gangs became one, and we called it OVG, Original Valley Gangsters, with a plural, not gangsters as far as members of that particular gang. OVG didn't become a gang until after a dude named Lump, you know, a Thump, got together and, you know, put Crip on the end of the OVG. So that kind of drew a wedge from the older generations of the OVGs and the younger generations of Pacoima Pirus. See, but what happened is it was a generational thing. In our neighborhood, you know, we had military tract houses that came up. All of our parents migrating from the South, you know, into these military tract homes established for minority people. So there was a lot of black and brown what they would call it, veterans. Okay. We had a whole lot of veterans. Okay. So we had original families that grew up in the city of Pacoima. It wasn't that big, but you know, just original families that established or originally bought those homes. Okay. And we were a part of that. Right. So in those projects, though, in that community, we had projects. One of them well known is the gardens, you know, the Pacoima Gardens or the projects. Okay. And the other was the piers, you know. So the piers is where we were from. Okay.
PPA boys. Okay.
Yes. Pacoima, it was Piers Park apartment boys. You know that. So that was our thing. And these were the older people. Now I can't say we because I wasn't technically one of them. I was too damn young to be one of them. Right. So, but I'm watching this with my eyes. I see this happening with my eyes. We had what they call Sherm Alley. Sherm Alley, the Piers was known for Sherm Alley, and I know being from Compton, you can relate to that because that was the drug of choice back then, you know, in the 70s, Compton. And so we had Sherm Alley where we was at. So we saw all type of, you can imagine the type of stuff we saw as children, you know, living in an environment where your place you lay your head is the actual place they come to purchase PCP, you know. So you see people, man, jumping off of roofs, getting naked, you know, all types of people getting bumperjacked, people getting killed. So we're watching this stuff, you know, as we
So what age were you at this point watching all this stuff? I want to know the trauma of it.
I was about 7, 8.
Yeah, that was definitely traumatizing to a 7-year-old.
Yes, it was.
And about what year was that?
This was about 77. 78. Okay. You know, so we watching this stuff. And what they didn't realize is that by watching this, we're learning. It's a learned behavior. Children don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do and mimic it. You know, because language is something that's still being developed. So words is something that we didn't comprehend really. You know, we understood certain things, but we understood more what you did. So we began to mimic that, you know, what they did. And but in so doing, like all generations, the blood crip thing started coming in. So now we started seeing OVGs coming back wearing a lot of blue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
we're looking like, man, you know, what's this new look? You know, with the blue and the French braids and the croca sacks, you know what I'm saying? And these 501s. You know, how the Crips used to dress back then. We looking at this and we like, man, what's this new thing?
Yeah.
And we noticed from our elders, the PPA boys, and that there was a non-acception. They didn't accept it.
Right.
You know, and it was like, nah.
So, quick question. What made the PPA boys gravitate one way or the other?
The PPA boys didn't. That's the thing. We were the generation that came out of that. We gravitated and separated.
Okay.
You know, we became something else. But we became something else from the lessons of the PPA boys. Like I said, we were too young to be actual PPA boys. You know,
So give me
their
some names
own
of
thing.
PPA boys.
You had Shep. You had
I know Shep.
Johnny Fisher. You had Rock Fisher. You had GT. It was so many of them, man, in there that I can go on. Papa San, and it's so many that I could just go on and.
Did you know Mafia? Edward Adams?
No.
Okay.
No, not necessarily. I might, but I don't know if I, if I do. Sometimes I hear names and I see.
Yeah, I know
the person
Shep
and
because
I
Shep was
recognize
The
them.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shep was great with his hands.
Oh man, Shep was a professional boxer, man. Shep was a professional boxer, and that's another part of the culture. And I say that.
And shout out to his son. Let me get a shout out to his son, Terrell Stewart. Shep's son. I'm in contact with his son, so shout out to Terrell
Right.
Stewart. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we gotta we gotta understand that we live like a village.
Right.
When you living in these type of environments, we lived our lives like a village.
Right.
So we had teachers there. You know, we had people to teach us how to fight. You know, we had people like GT and Shep and them. We watched them fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I had brought up Boo Black. Boo Black, I said he was the bully, but Boo Black was the teacher.
Right.
Who taught us all how to fight, man.
That's
I'm
what
talking
bullies
about
do.
one thing, and he didn't do it out of like, I want to take something. He used to literally teach us what we needed to know.
Right.
Get your hand up, put your, get balanced, spread
Right.
your feet, you know what I'm saying? Move, quit keeping your head in one place,
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we hated seeing him coming,
Yeah.
but then when it came down to it and things began to change in our communities, we were glad he was there.
Right.
You see, and all of these elders had roles in this type of stuff, and you don't really realize it until you look back at hindsight,
Right.
and you say, "Damn, this is really how this stuff went."
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing at the time that we were doing it. Before we were a gang, we were an apartment complex.
Right.
You see, that's it.
Right.
And we went and moved together as that apartment complex.
Right.
But the projects were also apartment
Right.
complex.
Because I didn't know
You
Pacoima
see?
had projects.
And a guy named Bozo from Watts moved out there.
Where was Bozo from?
Bozo was from Front Street, Watts.
Okay.
He brought the Crip element to the valley. Besides the OVGs that was coming in dressing like them and taking on their vernacular,
Right.
these guys were actual Crips, actual Crips. And I remember the response of the guys older than us, because we were still in the sports at that time. And we playing football. We see the contention, and but we didn't really understand it. But these guys, it was more like these LA niggas. That's what I was hearing. All them LA niggas. But LA niggas was synonymous with Crip. We didn't have an understanding of blood.
Yeah.
Even though I heard the word around the neighborhood, people saying blood, but I don't know, that it's an actual identity. I just think it's a word, it's a talk, But this is happening, and I noticed that there's this, because of the drugs and all that, there's this war, this contention between the Valley and Los Angeles. So when the Crips come out, we automatically rejected them. But we rejected them and became what they brought at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
In our rejection of them,
Explain that a little more.
In our
Explain.
rejection of the Crips, we became Bloods. Just like the foundation of the Bloods. The foundation
That's
of the
really
Bloods
how
was
Bloods-
your rejection of the Crips.
It was a reaction.
That's
It was
what
a
I wanted
reaction.
you. Yeah,
exactly. So what's happening is the same reaction that happened in Compton at the YMCA when they first established the blood thing. The same thing was happening in Pacoima. we were rejecting the presence, we were rejecting the idea and the movement of the Crips. That was a movement now.
Right.
You know, because they was coming through, they was coming through.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wasn't just, you know, coming through with a look. They was coming through
no.
popping,
Yeah.
shooting. You know what I'm saying? And
I
it
know
was
how
like,
they
look
come
here,
through.
man. So we didn't know how to respond to that.
Right.
It was our elder generations that helped us with that, because now PPA, we wasn't talking about PPA no more.
Right.
That wasn't us at all.
Right.
But it was, you know, like Big Evil,
Right.
who didn't want to lose the identity of.
Are you related to Big Evil?
No, but that's my brother.
That's your
You know,
persona.
ride or die, yeah. But he didn't want to lose our identity
Right.
as the Valley.
Right.
You know, but B Crazy was bent on, you know, becoming the Blood. He hated the Crips.
Right.
And he hated them. After he got out of jail, he had this thing with them, man. He was like, fuck them. Period. You know
Be
what I'm saying?
Crazy.
That was his,
Be
you
Crazy
know.
actually explained to me that he thought up the name while drinking bottles and James in his bedroom.
Yeah, well, he'll tell that. But Diesel said, you know, I got it apart from Diesel too. Diesel was saying that B Crazy wanted to be all these names. He was thinking of Bounty Hunter. He wanted all of these tough names,
Yeah.
you know. But like I said, Big E was like, I don't want to lose, you know, I don't want to be them. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? We already becoming, but I don't want to be them.
Right.
I want to keep, you know, what we are. And it was
Yeah.
Diesel
Right.
that kind of brought the two heads, you know what I'm saying, that knocked together.
Yeah.
And was like, look here, man, instead of PPA, we gonna make it PPB. Slide the L,
Yeah.
slap a B onto it, we gonna be Pakwama Paru Blood.
Right.
And they went from there. You know, they went to writing letters to different homeboys that was already in jail.
Right.
Like I said, we were an apartment complex before we were a gang.
Right.
Oh, that was
the only thing,
interesting that they
you know,
was able to take it that far to think of their loved ones that was away in order to
Yeah.
give them some identity, gave them an identity while they was away.
in there.
Right. Because they was a
Exactly.
part of the village.
They was a
right?
part of the village.
Yeah.
It was a part of all of that. So it began to birth. Like again, we really didn't know about it. I'm watching, you know, these guys running around after these guys. We all, like I said, we live in the same apartment complex, so we know each other. We know each other's mothers.
Right.
We know each other's fathers.
Right.
We know each other's uncles. We know who is on drugs.
Right. That's
we know
family.
who's prostituting. You know, we know who's broke, who got food in the house,
Yeah.
and we know who don't.
Right.
We know how that food is getting in the house for those who got food in the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We know all of that. That makes you a family.
Right.
You know,
That's
so
family.
we had an entire
Right.
apartment complex that operated under this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when we converted over into the whole gang world and we became Pakwama Paru Bloods, it was an easy transition for us.
Right.
You know, it was an easy transition. But while we're transitioning, the projects is transitioning.
Right.
And when it's their
You see,
transition.
into Front Street Crips. So now it went from Front Street Watts to Front Street Crips.
Okay.
You know, so now that's happening.
Okay.
While we're over here establishing this new identity, they're over there. The same families now that we grew up with. The same families that we went to junior high school, elementary with. The same families that our parents dated and went to clubs and
Right.
partied with are now our enemies.
Right.
You
Right.
see, and it started off as
And that
fist
story
fights.
repeats itself in
Over and
different
over.
geographical
Yeah.
areas.
So now, you know, we're fighting each other. It starts off with that. Simple
Yeah.
fist fights. You
Yeah.
know, competition. You know,
Yeah.
basketball, football, then it's
Yeah.
fist fights. You know.
Yeah.
Now, people who were family are now, there's this divide.
Right.
You know. And right when you thought that made it worse, crack cocaine came in.
Right.
You see.
That raised the bar
That
100
raised
degrees.
the bar from year to year.
Right.
You know, we went from fist fights on an RTD
Yeah.
and in malls.
Yeah,
to,
I ain't heard that long.
You know what I'm
time.
saying? Yeah. To full-fledged shootouts now.
Right. Yeah.
But remember, we're children. Children aren't supposed to have full-fledged shootouts.
Right.
You know, they got a book called Beast of No Nation. And it won all of these awards. And what it did is it depicted the war that children were being dragged through in West Africa. These little kids that was 11, 10, 12, 13 was put on the front line of these wars, and they were out there living life like guerrillas
Right.
and living guerrilla warfare like lifestyles.
Right.
And the book was about the trauma that was inflicted on the youth that participated in that lifestyle.
Right.
Now, what about us?
Right.
Is that a correlation?
Is it? How can it not be? Come on now. We talking about shootouts up close in liquor
Right.
stores, man.
Gunplay.
We
on
talking about
site.
gunplay, man. You seeing family members getting their heads
So-
blown off, man. This ain't TV. You
So
know, you
quick
can't
question.
rewind, cut. You know what I'm saying? And say redo. You know.
Would you say agree or disagree that the crack cocaine era provided the kids the money, and also it gave them broader ideas into the gang culture with the money and the cocaine?
Crack cocaine and the money. It provided the tools for our demise. It provided the tools, it put the seed in our crazy.
So did
You
it
see what I'm saying?
also provide a change of leadership based on money?
All of it, yeah. Because now elders, it killed a generation. Think about it. Our elders that we looked up to were no longer people to look up to. If they were no longer people to look up to, who did we have to look up to? That means that we were making our own ways. And there is no type of civilization that has ever been fruitful where the youth had to make their own way in society. Ever. But we were that generation where we had to literally make our own ways in a society that was actually built against us. And we had no support, no help, no wisdom, no guidance because they were on crack.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They were on crack. We can't listen to you. We had dudes that we did, street dudes that we did look up to. You know, that was, big reputable persons getting out of prison. They hit that pipe, man. You know, that person was never the same, never looked at the same. So now you got, like Dr. Dre said, Little Homie, that song he had. Now you got little dudes, man.
So which end did you guys handle? There was Columbus Street was famous for the crack, right? C Street, what they call?
Man, that came later, man.
That came later?
Yeah, Pacoima was always the mecca, man, of all street shit that happened in the valley.
So Columbus is actually in Van Nuys.
Sepulveda, yeah.
Okay.
But the thing about Sepulveda is when the Crips came out to the valley, they came to Pacoima. They set up shop there in Pacoima. And we fought, man.
Yeah.
We gunned, man. We gunned with East Coasters that came out there to set up shop.
Yeah.
We gunned with Venezuela lines. You know when Cube talked about that summer vacation and he was talking about going out of state?
Yeah.
Niggas came to the valley before they hit out of state, man. You know what I'm saying? So when it said St. Louis want their cornerback, that was us before it was St. Louis.
Right.
You see, so we had to deal with, we had, man, Broadways coming out there. We had Venezuela lines out there. We had East Coasters out there. We had, of course, the front streets out there. And then we had grapes. For a minute, we had grape streets coming in and out.
Kitchens.
We had kitchens set up in Sepulveda. They became Columbus Street. 8-7 Kitchens became Columbus Street with Jack Quan and all of them dudes and Porky and them dudes set up out there. So we were warring with dudes that we had never saw before.
Quick
We were
question,
warring with
man.
neighborhoods that we didn't even understand. I used to sit back and say, why do they call themselves Kitchen? I remember asking that question. We getting into it with them, and then somebody said, man, this is the kitchen. So why do they call themselves Kitchen? I don't understand this shit. Right? You know, but this stuff came to us, and while this was happening, another reality was happening. We're committing crimes now. And when you commit these crimes as gang members, you start filling the prisons.
Oh, yeah.
You know, once we start going to jail, now we have this identity. Now we have to be introduced to this whole other concept of what being the blood and the Crip is all about. Because prison is the United Nations for all gang members.
Yeah.
Everyone is there. A lot of people think that the street run the prisons. No, the gangs in the prisons run the street. You know, that's the United Nations. That's where everybody is at. That's where all of the heads is at. That's where everything, the killers is at. The vanguards are at. The forerunners, the front runners, the whatever you want to call it. They're there. You know, so all of it, that's a whole other reality to have to contend with. At the same time, we were dealing with this stuff that was going on. So not only were we losing older homies to jail and prison, we stuck with what we gonna do now. Now we got these guns, you know, and you got to think, I'm 13, 14. I ain't talking about no stuff. I was gone 3 days after my 16th birthday. So everything I'm telling you is 15 years old and prior.
Right. You named 6 or 7 neighborhoods in this scenario, right?
Yeah.
What made these 6 or 7 neighborhoods pick up out of their own neighborhoods and come to the valley? Do you know that? I mean, what would
Drugs, opportunity.
Yeah, I think if they saw that
Opportunity,
virgin
yeah.
drug territory.
Drug territory, man. People was coming in to set up dope spots. You know, so you might be living in your neighborhood and somebody tell you, man, yeah, on such and such street, man, they got some 60s out
So it was fertile ground.
You know,
Yeah.
so it was fertile ground until they found out we were there. You see, it was fertile ground until they found out we were there.
So they was met with some
You know,
resistance.
They were met with, they're not there no more. What do you mean, met with resistance? We were established and they were, excluded to the point where now we became a formidable gang in the valley.
Explain the
To the point
uniqueness
where-
of Pacoima Piru.
Huh?
Explain the uniqueness.
Uh,
Upon
I don't think there's uniqueness to any gang. Like
Okay.
I said, I think all gangs is as natural as tribalism is to indigenous people. I think that we just allow society to shape, reform, and reshape our perceptions of who we were. Anything that goes beyond 3 generations is now a culture. We talking about 5 or 6 generations of gangs in Los Angeles and throughout the state of California. You talking about it influencing art now. It influences music. It influences television. It influences politics. We're talking about something that has an influence on the social structure itself. We can no longer exclude it as just a violent idea or a disruptive idea. We have to look at it for what it is. It's a culture that has to be addressed. It's a culture that has to be nurtured into something better than what it is, because it's not the presence of the gang that is bad. It's the activity of the gang that's bad. And the activity is based on whatever perception we're feeding these children. And gangs are always perpetuated mostly by children. So when we start talking about youth, look at us. We old heads, man. We ain't out there on the street corners right now dictating what's going on and what's being, not going to happen. We're not doing that.
So is gangbanging the ethnic image of black people?
No,
Or
it's
it's just a familiarity that we became too comfortable with?
It's not just an image of black people. Think about that, what you're saying. Black people is exclusive. It means that there are no Mexican gangs. It means that there are no Asian gangs. It means that there are no white gangs. The oldest white gang is the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, I
And
know
we
it's
don't-
wrong.
We don't address it as a gang, but that's exactly what it is. They have late night meetings and stuff. They burn crosses. They you know what I'm saying? They vandalize.
What I just said to you
know what
is,
I'm saying?
is a perception of people that's outside looking in. It's not our perception.
Exactly. It's a perception of people outside looking in. But it's up to us to tell our story in such a way that their perception is shaped based on our story.
And this is the reason why
And
we do
not
these
other-
videos.
Yeah, we can't have other people telling our stories, man, because they're going to tell it from their perception. Just like right now, think about it. We talk about American history. The same people that oppressed us, suppressed us, oppressed us, and depressed us, persecuted us, killed us, raped us, maimed us, are the exact same people that educate us.
And gave us virtue.
You see what I'm saying?
Quote,
Exactly. So if you don't think that that's a problem, then we're going to continue being stuck in the situation that we're in right now. The reason why we're in the situation that we're in right now is because we have become lazy in our development. Lazy. in our
Arrested
railroad.
development?
Yes, man. We've allowed the system to raise our... We can't even discipline our children no more.
Right.
Without some social service person, white person in a suit coming in talking about they going to take your kids. Imagine you going to some white people house saying, I'm going to take your kids.
Right.
That's not going to happen. You see what I'm saying? But we live this, where we got to depend on social services. We got to depend on, somebody to give me a check.
Yeah, I think the better word for lazy, we become worn down. Because there are segments that is always fought against the indoctrination, the welfare system. We've always had that element in our communities.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they were fighting it for so long. But, Malcolm X, and I think what a lot of people miss about, Malcolm is his main frustration was that, Malcolm said that, was very distraught because he realized that our people, black people in America, were so brainwashed, that he started to, become disgruntled with a lot of the institutional, philosophies that he was trying to put down. You know what I mean? I think, just based on, a lot of the way that his speeches and his philosophy was changing, towards his death. You know what I mean? That was his, main heartbreak. Malcolm said he epitomized it when he said the American black man is evidence of the most thorough job of brainwashing that history has ever witnessed.
And that's where the frustration comes in.
See, the American,
By the way, we got little Raymond right here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Just want to introduce little Raymond into the,
the dominant culture, they label it as lazy, but that's, putting a tag on somebody without telling the whole story. You know what I mean? Why are they late? They've always tried to put that tag on us, but they came all the way to Africa, to get a whole race of people to work for free and do work that they didn't want to do. They call us lazy.
Yeah, but even that is problematic.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because the whole concept of the transatlantic slave trade has been unproven.
Right.
And it's also, you'll find that actually 80% of the Negroes that was here was already here when the Europeans got here.
That's true.
They did bring people
That's
from
a whole
Africa,
other story.
but we were already here.
You're absolutely
You
right.
know, I know this personally because my family is rooted here, thousands of years from Louisiana, man.
Say that again. We were where?
Already here in America. You know, we weren't brought from nowhere. This is why if you ask 80% of the so-called blacks in America, they all got Indian in them. It wasn't that much goddamn sex between blacks and Indians. What the hell? How everybody got some form of Indian in them. It's because our identity was changed. When we subscribed to the whole concept of race, which is a construct. They labeled us Negro because of the complexion of our skin. But we were the original people that was here before the Mongolian Indians crossed the Bering Straits into Canada. When they crossed from Siberia into Canada 20,000 years ago, we were here.
And there's also evidence that the geography had changed in way, Africans had, already made the journey and made the connection.
They
with the Americans, which is exemplified by the pyramids. And,
look at the walls. Go into the Aztec walls and look at it, man. They painted images of themselves, how they saw themselves. We're talking about brothers with dreadlocks. You see what I'm saying? Dreadlocks is not a hairstyle that was found in Africa. Dreadlock is an American hairstyle. You see what I'm saying? Well, I don't even like to use the word dread.
Yes, locks.
Locks, excuse me. Locks was an actual hairstyle that was established right here because the length of the hair was based on our spirituality, the same way that we see Native Americans now. And there's a difference between a Native American and an Aboriginal American. Malcolm said, Aborigine. He said, what is an Aborigine? He said, you're an Aborigine. He said, an Aborigine are black folks. He said, you would never find a white Aborigine. He said, you and I are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called an Aborigine, you want to be called an American. That was unquote. That was Malcolm. You see what I'm saying? But he was trying to educate us to the fact that so we were all
in order for us to begin the process, of undoing the indoctrination and the brainwashing. We have to start by changing those labels.
We got
and speak out anytime you hear, even when we do it amongst each other. That's why we stop a lot of us, using the N-word. You know what I mean? Even if it was a term of endearment between us, we have to start changing that label. Let's find another way, a more inspiring, you know what I mean, a beneficial way to endear each other than to use a word that was used to degrade us and hang our ancestors. So and it's the hardest job, man. That's why I embraced at one time in my college days, Dr. Maulana Kareem, because he came out I was listening to a speech that he did, and and he made it clear that the main struggle is the cultural struggle. If we can't, launch a revolution culturally, and change the mindset, of our people, then there can be no economic, or political, revolution. Because we can't think for ourselves. We still codependent to a white supremacy dominated culture that's designed to destroy us. And we still trying to be in bed with them. We still, begging for the crumbs that fall off the table. I look at these, our people who like to call themselves Democrats, Republicans. Don't you know both of those institutions are designed for your demise?
Exactly. Don't you
know what I mean?
They call it right wing, left wing, like it ain't no bird.
Yeah,
belong to the same bird.
Like there's no bird.
Two wings of the same bird.
But,
you know what I mean?
And Malcolm used to say that. He used to say, I don't care, you don't struggle because you're a Democrat or a Republican, a Elk or a Dixiecrat. You struggle because you're Negro.
Exactly.
Now, the whole thing is, we so, like you said, so dependent upon everything that they give us, that even the information that we got a lot of our people that are doctors, lawyers, scientists, architects, artists, singers, politicians.
Yeah, but we don't have our own institutions.
No, we don't have our own historians.
That too, but that's part of the institution.
Have our own
So
historians,
is it fair to say that love isn't the opposite of hate? It's just indifference. When you think about it,
can you repeat that?
Yeah, I didn't get
love isn't the opposite of hate. It's just indifference between us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So a lot of people try to use hate for everything, but it's not really necessarily hate. It's just indifference.
Yeah, but see, but that comes from lack of, like he said, culture.
Right.
Culture conditioning?
We don't have culture, man. We minimize the power of our own culture.
Right. So
and by doing so, we cut off our ancestors.
What we don't have, without culture, we can't build the institutions that are going to be necessary to sit at the table as equal to negotiate power.
Exactly.
Let's take it a moment for right now, and we're gonna leave it right there, and we're gonna come back up on part 3.
Right.
Okay? But Professor Melly Mill, we got Raymond, we got Evil, man, we got a Compton Paru and a Bacoima Paru sitting up here, man. Just it's historical, man. They chopping it up and man, giving y'all a bunch of. Matter of fact, they don't created a whole dinner. So we're gonna pick back up. Professor Melly Mill, the Hood Post, man. You know that vibe.